Howdy, and welcome back to Yates American B244. In this episode, we finally get to do some major assembly work, but we hit one little setback. Before I get into the heart of assembling the table back onto the base, I've been going back over the bare metal surfaces with a strip disc, and then giving them a coat of fluid film just to protect them from rust. To get into tight corners, you have to have a fresh disc. I'm also chasing the threads just to get rid of any paste, rust, and gunk. So one last time for the uninitiated, with the drivetrain on the left hand riser shaft is a right hand thread, and the right hand shaft is a left hand thread. A little skeptical about those two posts holding up the 300 or 400 pound table all by themselves. So I've made a couple of stands that will hold up the table until everything gets assembled. It'll be interesting to see how well balanced this table is lifting it from the center like this. I forgot, for these large cogs to go on, the riser shafts have to be down. I'm not going to set screw these in place yet because, if you recall, the small pinions that go across here are pinned in place. So any adjustment for the mesh needs to be done with these large cogs. I'm going to go ahead and put this cross shaft housing on, but there's a chance I may have to remove it later to do some machine work on this. I like to make sure all the old grease is purged out of these fittings before I put them back on. I'm going to put the better cog on the drive shaft, and this other one can go on the outfeed roll over here. So like most places, these attached bolts for these vertical adjust blocks, I've gotten rid of the lock washers and I'm putting a little blue Loctite on them. Now if you use 6-point sockets, there's less chance of rounding off the bolts. If you recall from disassembly, these bearings were pressed in so that the flat end of the bearing was flush with this outside surface. And then in assembly, these brass rings, or these brass bushings, go on the inside. So I've clamped an angle iron down here about 4 inches from the top for the table roll to rest on until we can get it hooked up to the end plates. A little blue Loctite. I've decided these shims that go on the end of the table rolls can't be reused because they're not staying centered on the end of the bearing like they should. They're slipping between the end of the bearing and the roll. So I guess I'm going to make yet another new part for the machine.